I am back with another training and rebirth video. This time, I did absolutely nothing with the two characters on the slave start, and I tracked not only my strength, athletics, and laboring skills to get the same graphs as last time, but I also tracked the days that were worked and the days that I stayed locked up in a cage. So I have the graph of their stats across all of the days, and then their stats with days not worked removed, which is a pretty useless graph because it's basically the same exact thing. So that's why I kept track of exactly where they stayed locked up instead of working to make this graph, which shows how many times my character stayed in a specific cage or pole at night and if they worked the next day or not. Now firstly, let's go over the location designations I made so that you can tell what's going on here. Here we have the poles. The last 6 cages are labeled, along with the house numbers that I used. The poles go from 1 through 14, left to right, top to bottom, like how you would read, and so are the outside cages, even though 2 through 4 are blocked by the Holy Lord Phoenix right now. Here's another angle that shows the first 4 cages. Now when we get into the cages that are inside of houses, they're labeled H for house, and then it's either left hand or right hand, and that's the left or right hand of the Holy Lord Phoenix statue. And the numbers go left, right, top to bottom from the point of view of the Phoenix statue. And then this is the number layout for what the cage in the house is. Number 1 is going to be the cage closest to where the guards sleep, and then going away from that. And then upstairs on the roof, it's going to be clockwise. Now that we know what all the independent variables on this graph means, let's get some insights into this very boring 27-ish hour playthrough where I did nothing. Now when I mean I did nothing, I literally didn't do a single thing. So on the first day, prisoners got beat up and then thrown into a cage, and then I just let the game go for a while. And if one of the characters went to, say, hole 9 or cage 10, and they were just stuck there for 8-9 days in a row, I wasn't gonna move them off the cage. I'm just gonna wait for a guard to have them go to work, which maybe it skewed this graph a little weird. And obviously there's 175 locations for the prisoners to stay at in Rebirth, and I only really kept track of exactly where they stayed at night for 100 days. So there is a lot of repeat of certain locations and even more locations that they just never went to at all. And it ended up being poles mostly. But just to get this amount of data, it took me, like I said, 27-ish hours, because it's 9 minutes per day, and I'm currently on day 189. So essentially the poles, which are probably the most popular spot for my characters to automatically go to, it's about a 50-50 chance whether or not they work the next day. But the outside cages and inside the houses are a pretty safe bet altogether. Altogether, my characters worked around 80% of the days, but if we remove the data from the poles, so I get rid of the days worked from the poles and the days not worked from the poles, it comes out to about 92% of the days are worked. Other than that, I can't really see any trends other than cage 10 being dog water and pole 9 is somehow even worse, even though that's from one string of not working 9 days in a row and then working on the 10th day, and then no one has ever touched pole 9 again. As far as inside the houses go, I can't really seem to see any sort of correlation between the different cages. It seems like no matter what cage you pick at a house, it's about the same chances. I also got this comment about how some mods add people to prisons, which will reduce your days worked, and that seems similar to what happened here. Here's my mod list, which I don't think affects the amount of people in prison, but the first 40 days had only 1 day of non-work, and then it was really starting to go downhill after that. So maybe that's when more prisoners spawned in, which more competition on who the guards let work. As I see it now, between day 1, there's not that many people in Rebirth. Day 180, there's quite a few people in Rebirth. Anyways, next video I test out what all the comments are on my last video were saying.